The idea of the Dominican American National Roundtable began in 1997 when over 200 Dominican American leaders from around the country came together to discuss the social and political status of the 1 million Dominicans who resided in the United States. They are committed to enriching the quality of life by highlighting the contributions of the Dominicans to the American society. Here with us now to talk more about the DANR and what lies ahead for the organization in 2011 is the newly elected president, Maria Teresa Feliciano, and we welcome you now to the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And congratulations, because you are the new president.
Thank you. It's with a deep sense of duty in an understanding of the seriousness of the position that I come as president of the Dominican American National Roundtable.
Talk to us about the roundtable, because we've had you here on the show before. You had a huge conference in Washington, D.C. First of all, how was that?
The conference was a major success in all aspects, participation, in the content, about something that was interesting and probably unexpected. The quarters where we had the conference was right at the U.S. Capitol. They have gorgeous new facilities, marble everywhere. So we were actually the first organization to hold the conference at the U.S. Capitol. It was excellent.
Wow. So when you had that, of course, you were elected as president. Talk to us now that you're president, 2011. We are here, the president talk about his State of the Union address. What do you have in store as far as initiatives for 2011?
Actually, the Dominican American National Roundtable is in its 13th year. As you mentioned in the opening, it was founded 13 years ago with the vision of advocating and representing the interests of, at that point, 1 million Dominicans in the United States. That figure has doubled, by the way. And we've done a few things. We entered this term in the middle of having initiated one major project. We are participating in the redistricting process. You know, that's as a result of the census. The next step is taking place right now, will be the redesigning of districts, electoral districts. And that determines representation for the communities where the districts are formed and so forth. You might have heard, it's interesting because states like New York might be losing a district. Yes. New Jersey, the same way. The West are winning a couple of districts because of the major population shifts. Around us, for example, Pennsylvania, will be gaining a district because of the shift in population to that state. So it's very interesting. And one of the things that we want to make sure happens is that we achieve adequate representation for Latino Dominican constituencies. And one of the ways of doing that is making sure that these districts are designed to favor that representation. Meaning pockets of our people are living in geographical areas that need to be grouped in districts where they can elect one of their own. It's a very simple way of explaining it. So, but the process, interestingly enough, is not decided or run by people, by the voters. You might think that voters elect their officials, but it's actually the other way around. Elected officials elect their voters when they design these districts, because what they're doing really is precisely that, designing a district that will group the voters that they think are going to vote for them. We might not have any participation in that if the commission that is doing that job are either elected officials or appointed by elected officials. So in a capsule, we as an organization are trying to influence that process, that we can participate, that we have fair participation.
When you look at the census and you see the numbers that came out and the figures that came out with the census, were you satisfied with what you saw and you heard?
Actually, we predicted the growth in population in the 2000 census. As you know, many communities were underrepresented, undercounted, and Dominicans were one of those communities. We predicted that the census will say that there are 2 million Dominicans in the United States, and the figures that are beginning to come out are saying exactly that. So they're right on the mark. I think the work they did, the job they did in making sure the count was as accurate as possible, it worked in different areas. So the figures we're seeing are match the figures that we had.
So now that you've got the organization together, 2011, you're the president, this is going to be one thing that you're going to be working on, is the redistricting and getting yourself prepared for that. What else is on the table for you?
Another big project is one that I will call is basic of an organization of this nature. As you know, organizations, either local, national, that do this kind of work are essential to society's function. Basically, in its summary, these organizations have the function of making sure society carries out its objectives, family, education, representations, and so forth. These types of organizations work in their area. One major project that we are undertaking right now is the organizing at a local level. We have launched the National Dominican American Council, which is the civic engagement public relations arm of the DANR. And what that means is we're going to be organizing local chapters or local councils throughout the United States, most likely in about 100 cities throughout 8 or 9 states where Dominicans are. And what it is like mini advocacy groups where Dominicans live and work. And they're going to be basically all the pieces that make up Dominican American National Roundtable.
Where are some of those cities that you're looking to target?
Well, for example, 5 of the 10 cities in the nation with the highest concentration of Dominicans are in New Jersey: Patterson, Union City, West New York, Passaic, Perth Amboy. In New York, for example, the Bronx has emerged as the place with the most Dominicans. It's no longer Washington Heights. So where we are in New York, Florida, Washington, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. In those states, they are cities where the Dominicans concentrate.
So
And that's where we're going to be working.
So you'll be working on that. Talk to us about the initiative, because obviously there was an initiative to be counted in the census and to get those numbers up and going. Were you satisfied with what you heard?
I think the results were good. We were aiming to have a checkbox on the census questionnaire, not indicating Dominican as a racial ethnic group. We didn't get that for the census. We definitely going to try to have it for the next. But what we did do with our campaign of Uno Más Uno was create awareness. We went to major cities with open forums talking about participation in the census and the importance of doing this. There are many decisions that are made that affect our lives based on the census figures. I was just reading recently that Arizona, famous Arizona with their anti-immigrant laws, actually lost millions of dollars in federal allocations because the reported population there was very, very low. Obviously, what happened in Arizona was that the undocumented were not counted. So, some might say, okay, good, we didn't want them counted anyway. But what happened to the state, now that you lost,
into dollars.
Now that it translates into a few $billion, okay, because you do have the people, but they were not counted. So that's a perfect example of how those figures really affect decisions or influence decisions that affect our lives socially. So we were pleased with our campaign and how people came out, because we saw a lot more participation in places that would normally be ignored or where people would normally ignore the process. They did fill out the forms, they made themselves counted, and we trust that our campaign influenced that outcome.
Well, if more people want to find out more about the DANR, how do they go about doing that?
Oh, they have to go to our website, www.danr.org. We have the formal swearing in coming up of the new president. It's going to be at the Harvard Club on January 14th, and we ask people to come in and register. Registration is required to attend. And something else, our next national conference is going to be in New York.
Beautiful.
Most likely in October, but we'll bring it back to New York.
Well, good, and I know you'll come back and give us some more information as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Maria, thank you so much for coming and sharing, the best wishes, and congratulations again on the presidency.
Thank you.